Alright, so first couple steps in getting this thing apart, you want to start by cutting one end of this string so you can get that free, and then you also want to pull off this black bumper that protects the edge of the can. Next you want to flip the can over and then just remove these two screws from the bottom. Once you've got the two small original screws removed, you want to replace them with the same diameter and thread, but longer replacements. Once you've got the longer replacement screws, 5 or 6 twists in, just with your fingers, you want to clean the edge here and then also apply a little bit of grease. And what you're going to do is basically just put these screws on a hard surface, and you're going to press down on the outside can and force the screen and all the circuitry out. Sometimes they come out pretty easy, sometimes they fight you. If this rim of the can is bent at all, it's going to be pretty difficult to get it out, just because the screen fits pretty tight and there's a real tight rubber seal in there as well. But a little bit of brute force and a whole lot of lubricant should be able to get the thing slid right out. Okay, so that was about one of the most difficult ones I've ever had to get out, and I've done about 6 of these. But what I ended up doing was just taking a block of wood to the edge of the can and giving a few sharp raps to push the edge of the can down. And you can see how the face is slid up, and it's ready to come out. All we got to do now is just take these screws out of the bottom, and the screws are number 6 by 32, and I use 1.5 inches. You'll need about that distance to get the screws fully engaged and still have enough room to push the face all the way out. So I'm just going to take these 2 screws out that I used to push the face out, and then I'll slide the face out of the can. Okay, so with the screws out of the holes now, I can just slide the can off, and you can see it's just an outer covering. And we'll put that down there, and then this is the whole of the Cox box. Pretty simple timing circuits, and then right in here you've got your battery, a little silica packet you want to save, but basically we just need to clip a couple of wire ties that are holding the battery in place, slide the battery out, and then snip the black and red leads here that connect the battery to the Cox box, and then just kind of rebuild everything in reverse. Okay, so the battery is just held in place with a couple of wire ties that come through the bottom circuit board here. So you just clip those around the battery and then go ahead and pull out the ends that hold them in place. And you can see it just kind of opens everything up. Next thing I'm going to do is just clip the leads that are on the battery, and I like to cut these very close to the battery. They give me the most wire to work with when it comes to soldering and retaping everything. So just snip those off right at the battery. Now the battery itself is just simply 6, almost it looks like 6 AA batteries that are soldered together in series. And you can take this to any store like Batteries Plus, hand it to them, and in about a day or so they can make up these things. I buy them for about $15. So what I've done is I've stripped back the leads on the Cox box, as well as the leads on the new battery. Here you can see our new battery and our old battery. So, and then the NK battery comes with a silica pack and this brown pad attached to it. And what I do is I just attach those with a strip of black electrical tape. So what we'll do is we'll attach that, and then we'll quickly twist our leads together and just make sure that the battery really was the issue before you get to soldering, and I can do a quick test of that as well. And what I've got here is my test rig. As you can see, the screen is working, which is good. That's a good sign. And then what I did was I scavenged some parts from boat. So I've got the harness from the boat, and what I've done is I've wired that into a small switch, as well as to a speaker. So you can test the Cox box out of the boat comfortably in your home, or not doing the whole upside down Cox box thing. So what you do is just press the switch, and that'll give you your stroke rating. And there's a rate of 24, 23, and so on. So we know that portion's working. Okay. And then we just need to plug in a mic and check the speaker, but all should be well. And we'll get to reassembling the box. Okay, so I have soldered the battery terminals to the wiring in the Cox box, and then after that I use this thing here, which is Helping Hands. It's got two little clips, place to hold your soldering iron. A magnifying glass works really well for holding everything while you're soldering. And then I use liquid electrical tape, which is a great product, and basically you just paint it on there, and it gives you nice waterproofing over your solder joint. And then what I do, just because I will actually tape over the liquid electrical tape as well. So that's where we're at right now. So we've soldered and insulated the wires, and the next thing is just to reinstall the battery. Okay, so I've slid the battery back in, and you notice the brown pad that we've reattached to the new battery that comes with the NK battery is facing away from the face of the Cox box. And then the other trick is to run your zip ties through first, and then slide the battery in. And then the last little trick is to take the male end of the zip tie, and then just cut off a little bit of the female end, and then slide that on there, and that'll act to lock that in against the plate. Okay, so I've tightened down the zip ties and trimmed the ends to make it all nice and neat and tidy. And then I've tucked the wires and the soldered joints back into the inside of there, and we're ready to slide this back into the can. So I have tested the unit and it works. Make sure you always test it before you slide it back in the can, because that's probably the hardest part of this whole thing, is getting it out of there. The other thing is you're going to have to be real careful to line the holes up, so that the holes on the receiving nuts line up with the holes in the can. And you'll notice that the holes for the handle line up perfectly with those. And then there's these two Allen screws in the face of it. And those will line up nicely with the holes for the handle. So as you slide this thing in, you want to make sure these are perfectly aligned. If they're not, your ability to twist this into alignment so you can get the screws into the bottom is almost impossible, just because the gasket holds it in pretty tightly. Before you go ahead and slide that all together, though, I like to use the liquid tape and seal up around the holes in the bottom of the can, just so that you get a little bit more waterproofing. Okay, so I've added a little bit of the liquid tape around the holes and around the nuts on the electronics unit, and I like to use a bamboo skewer or something small like that, just because the brush they give you with the liquid tape is pretty big and makes a big mess. So that'll be the first step that we have as far as getting this thing waterproof. So the next thing is just to slide it into the can, making sure those holes are aligned, and then we'll tighten everything down and test it again. So make sure that you lube the rim of the can before sliding the face back in. That'll save you some grief. And then what I like to do again is I like to add a little bit of dab of liquid tape around the screws just before I tighten them up, and then go ahead and tighten those down, and it should be good to test. So what we have is the unit reseated in the can. Now you notice it's a little hard to see on the camera sometimes, but that rubber gasket that goes around the face of it sometimes gets hung up on the edge of the can. If there's any damage whatsoever, any denting or misshapen areas, that rubber gasket will get hung up. And what I usually use is either a flathead screwdriver or just a dull chisel. It's one of my old kind of throwaway ones. But you just got to kind of push that gasket in, just to get it to reseat. You don't want to push too hard on the face of this, because you'll end up cracking the LED screen. But yeah, you just want to kind of work that gasket back in so it slides inside the rim of the can. And then the last step after everything's been tested and reassembled and sealed up is just to reinstall the handle. I usually use, like I said, use what you got around, but I use a bamboo skewer to pop that back through the hole because it is a tight fit. And then I'll take a soldering gun, soldering iron, and if you just melt the edges, hold it with a pair of pliers and then melt the edges and flatten it out, that'll create enough of a stopper where it can't get pulled through the hole again. Alright, so you can see I've melted the edges of the cord. The handle is secured on there. And then we've done testing, and everything seems to work just fine. Now you just need to give it a full charge before you use it, and everything should be good to go.